I have spent 15 minutes trying to find a nice spot to film in this tree. It's not happening, so we're really gonna keep this short today. I'm back, you might be wondering. How have I decided to disturb the peace today? The answer is it's gonna be me ranting, so absolutely the same as everything else that I have done. I think, in my opinion, the best part is how it's on the exact same subject as the last video. Technically, the topic is different, but we're still talking about physics, okay? I like it, if you haven't noticed. Essentially, today, the plan is we're going to talk about how I took a practice AP exam to prove myself, and in the process of doing so, managed to fail at taking an AP test. Um, yeah, I know. Be very proud of me. I tried my best. I try my best to be a constant disappointment to humanity. So, how does one fail at taking an AP test? Great question. I'd love to tell you. So, I took the AP Physics 2 exam. Now, let's start off with why. Why would I take that? Why would I subject myself to torture like that? And you see, as I said before, I was trying to prove myself. But for a better backstory, we have to go back to my junior year of high school. I signed up for honors physics because I am a nerd. And a week before the school year started, the teacher got arrested for pedophilia. So, needless to say, he was not teaching anymore. This left the school with 1 week to find a substitute teacher for the physics class. Guess how that went? It didn't go well. They found a chemistry teacher who didn't really know physics, so we had a chemistry teacher teach our physics class. Needless to say, we learned nothing that year. Absolutely nothing. So, come senior year, when I decided to take chemistry, I asked the chemistry teacher, who had been replaced by a now physics teacher, story of my life, and I asked the teacher if I could borrow a physics textbook. Once again, I am a nerd, and I decided to read through the entire physics textbook because I had no life. So I did that, and I decided to prove myself by taking a practice AP exam. Let's just get into it because this was a mess. Now, you might be wondering, well, how was this a mess? And I'll tell you, because I didn't know a very important key detail about the test. So I took the test, and I was going through the test, and I was like, huh, that's really weird. Why do some of these questions keep mentioning that there's supposed to be reference information? Huh, that would be really weird if I was missing something very important for taking the test. So, of course, because I am responsible and I like to be thorough in my research, I decided to, after taking the test, go onto the AP website and look and see if there was anything that I had missed. And when I looked, it said, hey, you're supposed to be given a reference sheet with a bunch of physics equations on it, which I did not have when I took the test. So I took a test without the reference sheet, and because of that, I mean, it's, easy to assume I failed. I did fail horrifically, and we're gonna get into that. But I just want to say, hey, College Board, thank you for, providing information for us on the test. Hey, next time when we make the course syllabus, let's not put the reference sheet in a completely different section than the practice exam questions. Maybe you should put the reference sheet that you're supposed to use for the practice questions with the practice questions. Anyways, that's just an idea, College Board. Yeah, so let's get into what happened on the test. So the first question is, which physics test did I take? Because there's multiple. I decided on physics 2. Nice and comprehensive, covers like all of the general physics stuff, but it doesn't, specialize in like electricity and magnetism. And I said, hey, if I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fail doing the harder one. So that's why I didn't take physics 1. So I took the test, I just printed out the 15 questions and then the 4 extended response questions from the course syllabus on the AP website. And then I just set time limits. I like proportioned the time to the amount of questions that I had. There were 15 multiple choice questions and then 4 extended response questions. So I did some math and I made the time fair, so I didn't give myself too much or too little time for each question. So for my score total, I got a 25%, which is failing. I would not have passed had that been my experience taking the actual AP exam. Here's the thing. I only guessed on 2, and I did get those 2 right, but I did get 5 correct of my own logic. So I would say, hey, that's about a third of the multiple choice questions. That's not bad for not having any of the equations that I was supposed to have. Also, there was a question on the Doppler effect, and we all know how I feel about the Doppler effect. So, of course, I got that one right. That one I got right in 2 seconds because it was A, easy, and B, I love the Doppler effect. And then the best part for me was there were 2 specific questions where I actually narrowed it down. I used my logic. I didn't have equations, but I used my logic to narrow it down to 2 separate choices. And then I just chose the wrong one. Technically, they were 50-50s, so I should have gotten at least one of them right. But, of course, I would get those wrong and then get the ones that I guessed on right. So, sure, I'll take it. Moving on, we can look at the extended response questions, and that's where it truly becomes atrocious. So the real problem with the extended response questions was that every single one of them required you to use the reference sheet for some of the equations. So I had nothing to go off of. Long story short, I got nothing on any of the questions. I got 0 points from that section, and it was worth 50% of the overall score. So that was great. Like I said, I didn't have the equations, but I think for 2 of them, even if I had the equations, I don't know if I could have done those. But for 2 of those other questions, I could have done them had I been given those equations. So I would say I probably got like a 50% there if we're going to, assume based on, I don't know, my intuition, which we're just going to have to go with. I would say I probably would have gotten those 2 questions right. And then I would have probably gotten a few more questions on the actual multiple choice. So I think I would have gotten around a little above a 50% had I been given those equations. Still not good. Still not good. But I think around 55% is what you need to pass. I don't know. That's at least what the percentage was for the AP exams that I took. Maybe it's different. But I might have passed had I been given those equations, which is crazy because, like I said, I self studied over the course of a year with just a beginner physics textbook. So the fact that I could figure any of it out was kind of crazy to me. And then just some fun things. I spilled purple ink all over the first page of the exam. I was using my lovely fountain pens that I got from the dollar store, and it spilled ink everywhere. And then also, I spent most of the most of the free response questions. I spent most of that time just sitting there. I had no clue what they were asking, and I had no equations. So, yeah, I kind of spent 30 minutes of my life just sitting there doing nothing. I tried at least a little bit, so that's why it's not the full 40 minutes that I gave myself. But a good 30 minutes was just me sitting there staring at the paper, not knowing anything. And yeah, so we can say that I did not prove myself. We can also say that, you know what? Maybe I was just dealt a bad hand because I refused to read the directions on the AP website that said that I was supposed to be given that reference sheet of information. And we can also blame the AP PDF because why would you put the reference information on a completely different section? But who knows? I'm not taking this again. This was horrible and I wasted like an hour and a half of my life. Anyways, if you found this comical at all, you should like it and subscribe. I kind of meant to keep this short. Um, but I got some other long form stuff and I do have more plans coming. Hopefully, now that I'm kind of free, I can get more videos posted. It probably won't happen, but maybe it will. And maybe you might enjoy them if you liked this. So you should subscribe, like, comment, do all the good stuff. Drive engagement, give me views. I would love that. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. You should go enjoy life. Or don't. Wait, most importantly, please send help.